Today we're reviewing 3 different levels of headlamps: the Rayovac Industrial Grade, the Petzl Tikka Pro, and the Petzl Now. All 3 are LED headlamps, and all 3 have weather-resistant IPX4 ratings. Let's get started. First up, the Rayovac Industrial Grade. It's got 50 lumens on high, 21 on low. They claim it is indestructible, but they also say it has a drop test of 30 feet. I'm a little skeptical. I think they might just be talking about the headlamp, because we threw it maybe 10 or 15 feet in the air earlier and we broke a bracket. So the headlamp might be drop tested and industrial, but if you break the bracket, you just have a weird, awkward flashlight. So keep that in mind. The lamp itself does feel pretty solid. It's got a nice bracket here. The strap is kind of strange. There's all sorts of loops and the way it attaches, a little messy. But once you get it adjusted, it fits fine and it doesn't feel like it's gonna come off or anything. It's got a single button here on the top, which cycles through the high, the low, and the off, and a few different levels for adjusting angle. If you're working up here, you can tilt it down. It feels a little flimsy, but not too bad. The beam is a little unfocused. It's just kind of wide in general. There's no real narrow beam. It would be good if you're having to work up close, tilt it down. I can wire an outlet or something in an attic, but if I was walking around in the woods, I wouldn't want this headlamp. As for batteries, it uses 3 AAAs. They include Rayovacs. They claim 38 hours on high, 17 hours on low. For the price point, it's really not a bad headlamp. If you're working rarely in the dark to occasionally, this might be the headlamp for you. You don't want to drop a ton of money for just using it every once in a while. Next up, the Tikka Pro from Petzl. It's got 100 lumens on high, 20 on low. It does use what Petzl calls standard lighting, unlike the Now, which we'll look at in a second. As the battery drains, you will lose a little bit of light, so the light falls off as the battery has less power in it. This one also obviously has 2 modes, the high and the low, which are selected using this top button here. Overall, the headlamp does look nicer than the Rayovac. It's got a nicer head strap, and it adjusts real easily. Petzl overall is very good with designing their products. They all have very good looking products, very sturdy feeling. For runtime, they say 120 hours on high, 180 on low. This also uses 3 AAA batteries, which Petzl includes with the headlamp. This is a great headlamp option for you if you don't need a completely budget headlamp, but you also don't need the top of the line, full of bells and whistles headlamp. And the last headlamp we will look at is the Petzl Now. This thing has a ton of features. This is the top of the line, Rolls Royce, if you will, of headlamps. This headlamp has 2 different lighting modes. The first is constant lighting, which is like the Tikka Pro. It just puts out a solid light. The second is reactive lighting, which actually reads the reflected light coming back and adjusts the brightness based on environment. It helps your battery last a little bit longer. It's just a little bit better feature for working in different environments if your lighting situation changes. On max power with constant lighting, this puts out 430 lumens. That's a lot of light. It'll last for 90 minutes. This is great for walking around. The beam goes a little bit farther, just overall brighter. The other setting on constant lighting is what they call max autonomy. It puts out 120 lumens, so still more than the Tikka Pro, and it'll last for 8 hours. It's good for working up close. The real special feature about this is the reactive lighting mode. It uses a sensor, which is right here at the top, to read how much light is actually bouncing back from the headlamp, and it'll adjust based on your environment how much light it puts out. This helps save battery and kind of makes your work a little bit easier. On max power, this thing puts out anywhere from 575 lumens all the way down to 7 lumens. Depending on your environment, again, let's say if you're walking from a dark environment out into the sunlight, it'll turn it all the way down to 7. Then when you go back into a dark environment, it'll crank the light back up. This makes your battery last a lot longer, anywhere from 6.5 hours to 52 hours. They also have a max autonomy mode with the reactive lighting, and that puts out 290 lumens and will last anywhere from 12.5 hours up to 52 hours. Finally, there is a reserve mode on this. When your battery runs out, you still have 1 hour of 20 lumen light to get back, charge it up, change batteries, maybe quit for the day. One of the things you'll notice right away with this headlamp is the design. It just feels really solid. You put the headlamp on, and then there's one central adjustment point. You just pull back here, and it tightens everything around. The rechargeable battery is actually located in the back of the headlamp. It's got a cord that runs along the edge. You pull it out like this, undo the cord, and then charge the battery with USB. There's an included cord to plug into your computer. The lamp adjusts settings using this little rocker switch. Turn it, turns on. You can go through the constant and the reactive lighting. You can see this is the constant, which is very, very, very bright. And then you can also turn it all the way around to lock in your settings to make sure that when you're working, you don't bump it and change your lighting settings, all of a sudden you're in the dark. Obviously, this is a top-of-the-line headlamp made for professionals. The price point does reflect that. If you need a very, very bright headlamp with a ton of features, lots of flexibility, the Petzl Now is the one for you. All right, we've gone over the basic features. Let's go out into the dark and put them against each other to see how the lights perform. All right, so we moved out into our training facility here, and I'm currently lighting myself with the Tikka Pro. In the complete dark, we're gonna put the 3 lights to the test, showing their high and low settings next to each other. All right, so how we're gonna do this, I'm gonna shine each light at this wall, which is about 15 feet away. This is the Rayovac on high. You can see kind of a widespread beam, not a real bright focused area there in the middle. Here is the Tikka Pro on high. As you can tell, a little bit more focused light and some decent spread on it. And boom, the Now. Very bright, nice focus beam, good wide shot too. Definitely much, much brighter than the others. And now the test on low. These are the same camera settings as the high. The light comparison is equal. There's the Rayovac. There is the Petzl Tikka Pro. Still a little bit better than the Rayovac on low as well. And here is the Now on low. Still brighter than the other two on high. Overall, a much, much nicer headlamp. So there you have it. The Rayovac, the Tikka Pro, and the Petzl Now comparison. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see our videos as soon as they're released, and to see all of our updates, like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter.